So it's important to remember that the application process can vary. For some people, it might be a very quick process, whereas for some people, it might take longer. But the most important thing is to make sure that you're putting down all the information that you need to on the form. So everything about your role and making sure the information you're sending to Access to Work is clear. And also it's important to make sure that the person that Access to Work contact from your organisation, for example, your boss, is putting down the same information, because they will want to corroborate that, just to make sure the information that you've both given is the same. So Access to Work likes to double check to make sure that everything you're saying about your role is clear. So make sure you give them the detail they need to be able to make the right decision for your application. So when you're applying for Access to Work, all Access to Work advisors have different levels of experience. Some might be very familiar with working with deaf people and have a better understanding of the needs of deaf people. Other Access to Work advisors might be new. They might have never worked with a deaf person before, so they might not be able to best understand your needs straight away. So it's important that you're prepared to be able to liaise with them to ensure they understand best what you need. So in terms of how you make your Access to Work application, there's 3 different ways in which you can do that. You can either complete the application online, you can use the telephone to call it in, or you can use a Relay UK service to do that. So that's a text service that goes to a speech operator who will then speak to somebody in the Access to Work department on the phone, and then they will type back what they're saying to you. Or the third option is that you can use video relay services. So you can call an interpreter and then you can use sign language to complete the application form that way. And the interpreter will relay what you're saying to the Access to Work advisor. So there's 3 different ways that your application can be made. So when you're making your application, they'll ask for things like your work address, what you do. They will ask for the name of your employer. So they'll ask for those sorts of details. Also, you'll have to explain to the advisor about how your deafness will affect you in that particular role. So it might be difficult to hear because there's a noisy background. It might be you need support for meetings. So make sure you're giving them, again, all the information they need to be able to give you the support that you require. Okay. And of course, it might be that your boss doesn't know anything about Access to Work. We can't assume that all employers will be familiar with the Access to Work service. Some will, and some might be able to support you, but some won't. So it's important that you know everything you need to know about Access to Work. So you understand how the system works, you understand what you need, you understand the process. So then if your employer isn't familiar with what to do, you can best advise them. And once an Access to Work award is made, in terms of the payment process, either Access to Work can pay your note taker or your interpreter directly, and you will have to be responsible for booking those communication support professionals. So what you'd need to do is you'd take an invoice from them, you'd fill in your Access to Work claims form, you'd get your manager to sign it off, because obviously they'd need to prove that you had that support, and then you'd send it to Access to Work. Once Access to Work approve that, they can pay the interpreter or pay the note taker or whoever you've booked. Or if you don't want them to be paid directly, with some companies, they will pay the company, or you can claim for Access to Work and then they can the company can then pay that back. So there's different ways. So yes, either they can pay it directly, you can pay it to the company and the company can then pay the professional. So there's different ways that you can arrange that. Okay, next slide, please. So the Access to Work award is usually given for a year and then it's reviewed on a yearly basis, but sometimes it can be given for up to 3 years. So for example, my Access to Work has been given for a 3-year period. And again, this does depend. When you get towards the end of that award, you can apply for it to be renewed 12 weeks beforehand. So at that point, it's worth contacting Access to Work to renew that application. Next slide, please. And if something changes in terms of your circumstances at your job, then you need to let Access to Work know. So maybe your workplace changes, maybe your role changes, maybe the address that you want to claim from changes. Any of those things, you need to contact Access to Work to let them know. If you've got a new phone number or a new email address, it's really important that you tell Access to Work so they know how best to contact you.